I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I'm a high school student. Growing up in Canada, I often clashed with my immigrant parents and our Korean culture. I would bring home Western thoughts and ideas to our family, yammering in English as my parents tried to listen haphazardly. At other times, my parents spoke to each other in Korean while I pretended to understand. It was grown-up talk, foreign talk, an inside joke that I wasn't in on, and a language I had trouble understanding. Soon enough, silence, as well as one-word replies, served as our shared form of communication. Our differences in culture clashed, and I initially experienced a disconnect from my Korean culture. Already, I felt my appearance did not belong in the Western world, and this disconnect strengthened the feeling that I did not belong anywhere, even with those who shared my facial features. This internal conflict manifested in my interactions with my parents as well. I became angry when I couldn't understand their culture and upbringing. It was my culture too, after all. Instead of addressing the miscommunication and conflict at hand, however, I became passive-aggressive, and as a result, words and actions were constantly misinterpreted in my household. The Joy Luck Club is a book, later made into a movie that focuses on the relationships between Chinese and American children and their parents who had immigrated from China. The book was able to depict Amy Tan's experience as an acculturated child, and it resonated with me. My relationship with my mother and my ties with my Korean culture. In this book, misinterpretation of culture led to multiple frustrations within my mother-daughter relationship. These frustrations were felt in my family as well, and they weakened my ties to my Korean culture. As I got older and more insightful, the need to be fluent in both cultures, Korean and Canadian, has stayed with me. However, I now realize the love for my parents that I once did not completely understand, and I realize the complexity of culture, as well as the importance of communication as an acculturated child. Though I did not think I was unattractive, I interpreted mainstream media as saying otherwise. It's oversaturated with white adolescents, disregarding racialized youth in our realities in the Western world. Recently, I found Western pop culture has witnessed the rise of K-pop, or otherwise known as Korean popular music, and anime, which polarizes the treatment that I have been receiving. I used to be made fun of for my Asian features and culture, yet parts of it are now being celebrated in the mainstream media. East Asian cultures have become glamorized or fetishized, whereas the rest of Asia is disproportionately looked down upon or forgotten. This makes the continent of Asia seem monolithic, affecting my interactions and relationships with other Asian descent people as well. Since my elementary years, peers and teachers perpetrated racism at every school I have attended. Microaggressions heavily contributed to my culmination of hurt and anger. Other forms of racism were blatant, as people commented on my facial features, hollered slurs, and assumed Asian stereotypes. I experienced this prejudice from multiple cultures. Much of the racism I experienced was due to a lack of education, and that heavily impacted my daily living and how I perceive myself. I internalized this ignorance and began inflicting lateral violence within my Korean and greater Pan-Asian community as well. It became common for myself and other students of Asian descent at school to call each other names and perpetrate cultural stereotypes and bias. Instead of facing our vulnerability, it was simpler and easier to displace our hurt and turn to crude, humorous jokes, a form of saving face that many of us were unconsciously taught to do when we were young. Morbidly, this internalized racism served as an unspoken but mutual bonding experience between us all. I felt a sense of belonging and solidarity. However, this confidence and feeling of solidarity did not last long. It was fleeting and temporary, the result of avoiding the main issue. Though I do not displace my hurt anymore, the racism I experienced when I was younger has stuck with me to this day, affecting my self-image and sense of identity. So please, as you have listened to my experiences of racism and my navigating my identity. Please reflect with me. Thank you.